welcome everyone. It's Kylie Davis here, President of the Proptech Association, and it's great to see so many people jumping on the call for our Proptech panel on property investing for 2024. Now, I am here on Cadogal land of the Yuin Nation, which is on the very far south coast of New South Wales, down near Bega. I'm actually here at my mum's place at the moment. My mum has a house down on the south coast. It is almost like a community centre. People are always dropping in, so I apologise if there's any noise in the background as people turn up. But in the spirit of reconciliation, the Proptech Association of Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, the air above us, and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations people joining us on the call today. And I'd also like to thank the fabulous support of Stone & Chalk, who make our panels possible. And for those of you who don't know, Stone & Chalk was founded as a not-for-profit in Sydney in 2015 to help fintech startups commercialise and grow. And from 40 startups back in 2015, it now has hundreds of startups in Melbourne, Sydney and Adelaide, covering all areas of emerging technology, including, of course, our favourite Proptech. So let's kick off. Property is Australia's biggest asset class, valued at over $12 trillion, and it's our favourite way to invest. And we are unlike any other country in the world because of our love affair with property. And it's responsible for supplying rental homes of just over 30% of the population. And it's also an area that has long been serviced by Proptech, designed to help investors understand the market, make more confident decisions about where to buy and how much return they can expect. So in this Proptech panel, what we're going to do is explore the extent of Proptech out there for investors, what new problems it's now starting to solve, what we're seeing in the data a bit, and what the future is for property investing. And my panel of experts is Alex Fedoseev from HtAG, Ajay Ayyar from propertydirector.com.au, and Richie Ragel from Milk Chocolate. So welcome, gentlemen.
Hi, thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Great to have you all on the call. Alex, let's start with you. Now, your tech's called HtAG. Give us a short overview on what that stands for, how long you've been going, and what you do.
Sure. So it's HtAG Analytics. HtAG stands for Higher Than Average Growth, and there's a bit of a story behind how we came up with the name. But let me just start by explaining what we do and what we're all about. We launched in 2018. We're a fully bootstrapped company. And at the start, it was just myself and my co-founder, Matt, who we're both property investors back then and right now, obviously. We had our own framework where we really valued data when we made our decisions when it came to invest in property. Back in the day in 2018 when we launched, and we thought, hey, we're using all this data, why not make it publicly available, launch a portal, and then see what happens. So here we are, 6 years later. That initial framework that we had evolved drastically over the period that we've been around. And the way we've achieved that is that we actually built the community around in the back of the platform. So we've been working very closely with buyers, agents, and brokers who obviously rely on data to help their clients. And through that journey, although we had the initial framework in place, we also got a lot of feature requests, industry best practice inputs from our professional subscribers that we use to uplift the platform and offer additional data points and features. So we're at a point now where we have about 50 metrics that can help you make better property investment decisions. And it's not just about providing data, it's also about essentially tying in location research with your individual property investment strategies. So this is where we're a little bit different from other data providers. There is that matching aspect that we advocate and we have a solution for. We're working on making it more seamless, less heavy lifting from our users, where we match you to a potential property or a set of properties based on the parameters that you define. And that's what we do. We're constantly evolving, and I hope now is a good time to explain why higher than average growth. So higher than average growth it really comes down to a couple of things when you do market research, and we all know that it's really hard to predict how markets are going to behave, because property markets are irrational. So you have to take that in account when you look at locations for your investments. But what you can do, although you can't predict property markets, you could increase the probability of success. And that's where high the average growth notion comes from. We look at the country average, and we have developed a couple of metrics that help you increase the probability of you performing above the country average when you decide on where to invest and what asset type to invest in.
Okay, so look, I'm assuming that some of that is going to be your secret sauce, but there is a lot of property data out there, and you mentioned that there was 50 kind of key metrics that HtAG identifies. But how is your data different?
So there are a couple of ways in which it's different. So first of all, yes, there are metrics, but imagine being an investor or even a real estate professional and trying to analyze markets based on 50 metrics, right? You're essentially going to need a degree in data science to be able to perform that, well. So what we've done, we provide that level of data to anyone who's interested, because we want to be as transparent as possible. But what we've done, we've taken all the data and we've developed a predictive model called RCS, which stands for Relative Composite Score, and it essentially automates that research aspect for you. So there is the 3 metrics that are produced from over a collection of 50 other metrics that you can then use to match locations to your strategy, to your investment goals, and so on. And that simplifies the research. There's 15,000 suburbs in Australia. Imagine having to kind of look at every suburb and understand whether it matches your goals and your investment appetite. We short circuit that, so you only ever need to look at about 20.
Right. Okay. And when you were talking before about being able to look at the data and understand its propensity, and match it to your strategy, do you help your property investors identify a strategy, or how do you manage that?
Yes and no, in a way, because it's a bit of a chicken and egg question. Where does the strategy begin? Where the location research begins?
Yep.
But the going-in assumption before you jump on the platform, you do need to at least understand what your budget is and what your strategy is and how risk averse you are, because all of that is going to essentially dictate which markets you're going to match with. And again, going back to our main principle, it's not just about providing the data, it's matching you to the markets that apply to you and not to everyone else. We actually coined a term around that. A hotspot for me is not a hotspot for you, just because everyone's got different financial situation, different strategies, different goals.
Yeah. Well, by the time it's identified as a hotspot, it's not hot anymore, right? It's off the boil.
That's a completely different story. Yeah, I know. We can talk about that as well.
So in the HtAG view, how does an investor achieve higher than average growth?
So we help you essentially identify markets that will help you meet your goals. That's how you achieve that higher than average growth. Obviously, by doing that, there's a lot of analysis that happens behind the scenes when we analyze markets and we match it to your strategy. That higher than average growth is almost a side effect of the depth of the analysis that we perform. That essentially anyone can leverage to support their decision making. That's it.
So how many investors have used your system? Like, you've been going for 6 years. Like, what are some of the success stories?
Interestingly, we have a big adoption among real estate professionals, just because they need the data on a regular basis, first of all, to help their clients who are property investors. So it's a B2B platform. But we also support B2C clients. So anyone can sign up. It doesn't mean that like you have to be a buyer's agent, for example, to sign up. But the success stories are primarily within, the domain of buyer's agents and brokers helping investor clients achieve their goals and short-circuiting that research aspect that saves them a lot of time, so they don't need to spend days and hours researching markets. Our platform does the heavy lifting for them. Mm-hmm. I can give you a couple examples of like really popular data points that enables various strategies with our buyers agents clients and some investor clients. One great example is where they can identify instant equity growth through bedroom disparity in the market. So, for example, if suburb X has a typical price for a 2-bedroom house at $500,000 and a 3-bedroom house is priced at $700,000, there's that instant equity of $200,000 that you can realize by just adding a bedroom, and that data is readily available for you in the platform, so you can look at it and identify those markets that are great options for this strategy. Another great strategy that a lot of our clients employs is the traditional buy and hold. So we all know that property investment is not a get rich quick scheme. You need to have patience, and it takes a bit of time to realize those gains. So some of our clients who start using the platform, 6 or 5 years ago, are kind of seeing the result of that appearing, in terms of how their portfolio have performed now. And by the way, our predictive model also favors that same long-term buy and hold strategy
right.
as well. So yeah.
Okay. And so, look, I love that you guys have a predictive model. So I'm going to ask you to predict, what do you see is the future of property investing, and how's HtAG or higher than average growth preparing for it?
Yeah, there's a couple of interesting themes in the industry that are beginning to kind of emerge. One is we've been getting a lot of, we provide data, not just subscriptions. So we've got other startups and Proptechs that approach us to collect data. And when they do, a lot of the time they have this ideal state solution in mind where they build an everything app that connects everyone to everyone. And I definitely think that just because we're seeing that trend popping up in many requests that come to us, I definitely think that that's probably where the industry is going to evolve going forward. And that means there's essentially a lot of automation can occur where right now, various parties help investors do various things. For example, mortgage brokers help, securing a home loan, buyers agents help market research and securing a property. A lot of that can be automated. It doesn't mean that those actors can be completely removed from the picture, but the automation and matching of a property investor to the right, not just the right property, but also to the right actor to help them in certain aspects. That is definitely going to be a direction where the industry involves going forward, and we're just a piece of that puzzle. We provide market research and location research. At this stage, we also work on a feature that is also going to enable a bit of a matching, so like Tinder-like experience for users where they match the property based on their parameters. When that is done, that could be a piece of the puzzle in that large ecosystem that appears. We'll see how many years from now. I think it's going to take at least 5. Probably a little bit more because there's some challenges there.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Look, I apologise if you can hear a small dog in the background losing his mind. Someone's just turned up to visit. So, Alex, are you also seeing your data being used, because you're in the buyer's agent space? Are you seeing a lot of your data being used in the first home buyer market as well, or by first home buyers?
Yes. So there is an interesting strategy that pops up more often than others, and it's rent vesting. And they're typically home buyers who are renting right now, but they want obviously to upgrade to larger residence, and that's where they kind of trying to, I guess, predict the market a little bit, but also make sure that they're in a much better position, when they're ready to upsize to a bigger residence. And they're normally younger families that are, expecting kids, or, there's a couple other user types there. So what they use our platform for is essentially trying to find the best of two worlds. They want to invest in property that they will then move into a couple of years from now. And their strategy is a little bit more nuanced, because they don't just want the growth, they also want to live in a affluent and favorable suburb with good education, good schools, and so on. So there's a couple of metrics that we overlay on top of another that enable them to better hone into those markets that apply to that particular strategy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, AJ, let's talk to you about Property Director now. How did Property Director start? What inspired you? You've got a background in property investing, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I started Property Director back in 2017 with two other business partners. They're also property investors. So we were just looking for a system where we could effectively track our portfolio using some kind of online portfolio system. We did find a few out there, but what we found was lacking there was either they were kind of too basic or high level, or they were a little bit hard to use. And not really providing the way we want to visualize our portfolio to look at things like the equity and rental over a period of time. So, given our technology backgrounds, we thought in the back of our mind, it'd be worthwhile to maybe create something like this. We're pretty confident we can build something, given our knowledge and subject matter expertise as property investors, and we all come from pretty strong tech backgrounds. So that's how we started. But then, in conjunction with that, what we were thinking is to extend that to include all the sorts of digital tools that any investor would need, like research reports or forecasting tools, things like that, and to do it in a sophisticated but easy to use way. So that's kind of where it started. And since that time, so we initially started with just like we call bookkeeping, or just tracking and visualizing your portfolio. But then we thought what we want to do is to have there was a lack of a one-stop sort of dedicated platform for real estate investors with the sort of sophisticated and easy-to-use tools that they would need. Yeah.
And so what are those tools that you're providing with Property Director?
Yeah, you can break it down into a few different areas. Firstly, there's the like I said, the bookkeeping. So just adding ability to add your properties to your portfolio, the ability to basically track the transactions at a low level or a high level, so it's all in one place. Ability to attach all of your statements to visualize basically your equity and rental income and rental yield, and basically your financial position really easily, and your LVR, all that sort of standard information. And also the ability to look at your portfolio at a bird's eye level or at a low level, irrespective of whether you've got one property or 5 properties or 50 properties. So we've got people who are premium investors who've got over 50 properties, and they find that tool really easy to use. But not just that, to sort of have the ability for investors to also forecast their portfolio based on all of the information that they've inputted, to look at, okay, so right now my equity is, $1 million, and I've got 5 properties. What will my portfolio look like in 10 years from now if I was to just hold my investment, and what would that kind of look like according to some historical factors? So what we've got as part of our tool is the forecasting capability, where we look at historical data at a suburb and a property type level to then let the investor know, okay, if I just hold on to my investment, if it continues sort of to grow as it is, where will it kind of be, with the ability to put in different variables. The other tools that we've got are basically research reports. So all the sort of what I would call bread and butter sort of reports and insights that an investor should look at, like capital growth data going back 40 years, detailed demographics. So basically the type, I guess the suburb profile, including the population, the breakdown of freestanding houses versus units versus townhouses in a suburb, and also some more sort of innovative type features where what we really do well in Property Director, and we always get compliments on, is the way we visualize the data. So basically we've got a suburb map, for example, which basically visualizes every suburb in Australia. And if you just click a particular suburb, it gives you the rental yield, the population, to help investors narrow down certain suburbs that they would want to invest in. So in addition to that, we've also got a strong focus on extending our forecasting capabilities to allow investors to play out different scenarios. So really, you could break it down into those three key areas. I guess you call it bookkeeping and I guess property investment tracking, forecasting and scenario forecasting capabilities, and thirdly, the research reports. Pretty much like a one-stop shop of all the key essential tools that investors would need.
Okay. And so and you mentioned before that your tool, that Property Director, is used by both single investors and then multi-investors, multiple property
Yeah.
investors. What's the breakdown? How I'm assuming the majority, if they've got a portfolio, are multiple investors?
Yeah, absolutely. So what's good about it is we do see sort of different types of investors. So we've got people who literally don't even have an investment property yet. They come there purely as subscribers to look at all our research tools, and then or they might have one property, just their PPOR, and they just want to use our research tools. But typically, I would say probably 5 to 6 investment properties would be sort of a median or average number. But having said that, we've got people, I've got people who've got over 50 investment properties who use the platform. So they use it for all the bookkeeping and everything like that, but they're still active investors. So they've got unit blocks and things like that. So it's great to have that kind of range of people there. So it's irrespective. I think we've got that sort of combination of features and tools that caters for those different markets. But I'd say probably 5 or 6 is sort of that sort of typical number that we tend to see.
And as those bigger investors, are they more likely to be businesses or rather than
Yes.
mum and dad investors?
Yeah, there are some mum and dad investors, and it's amazing that they've able to amass this sort of scale of investment. Some people it's sort of they've got trusts, but it's pretty much just individuals. I think there's one business who does it, but where they've kind of tailored it for their purposes. And there's other people who basically through generations, they've basically been involved in property investing. Their family's been involved, and they've got unit blocks. So they've got like multiple unit blocks where they use the platform as well. So it's great to have those kind of people come in and take advantage of the platform. So yeah, we do see that sort of variation, but we stay in regular touch with these sorts of investors. They give us feedback and they constantly help us improve and refine our platform. One of the unique things about us is we like to have that sort of relationship, being investors ourselves, and keep that sort of personalized thing going with them as well.
Okay, awesome. And so, just so that I'm clear, your platform, propertydirector.com, and when you're talking about the bookkeeping and things like that, that's very separate to the property management, right? That can still be done by a property manager or a real estate agent group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're kind of agnostic of, whether someone wants to self-manage their property or whether they go to a property manager. But typically, most, if not all, of the people who subscribe, they use property managers, and basically we've got just a transaction line within our tool where you can just apply a property management fee on top of the rent, and that's just all calculated automatically. So yeah, it's sort of, we're agnostic to that. It's up to you. If you're an investor and you want to use a property manager or you want to manage it yourself, that's totally fine. We cater for any type of investor.
Okay. So you're using data mainly that's coming from Pricefinder and SQM. What was it about those two data sets that made you choose them, and what insights have you got that are unique?
Yeah, sure. So I guess for us, it really just starts with what data we want. Just as there's a certain requirement, we've got a certain vision for a feature we want to build. So it comes down to the data we want. Second, I guess, how established they are in the market, if they can give us reliable data, that they're well known. And thirdly, like things like history, how far they go back. We've just recently purchased rental yield data, which is going to come out in our platform. We're going to integrate that into our forecasting tool as well to provide not just capital growth forecast, but also cash flow and rental yield forecast. So that's one thing. The other thing, I guess, is just approach to engagement to make sure we've got things lined up in a way where we've got like a good, secure, long-term relationship, that we get along and they understand our business and we understand theirs. Ability to just easily work with them. They've got a simple, easy to understand model. We like to work like that. And also opportunities to partner. So one of those data partners that we've actually provided our services to them. Although we buy data from them, they use some of our innovative capabilities there as well. So we actually consult. We've got like a B2B part of the business as well. So I think those sort of things and how you get along and just have that mutual sort of relationship is also quite important.
Awesome. And you mentioned before, AJ, that you have that forecasting part of of the tool.
Yeah.
How accurate have your forecasts been? Like, can you give us any examples?
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, no one, I mean, if you're being real about it, no one really knows what's happening in the future, right? But what we try to do is as part of our forecasting, we try to use data that we understand, and basically consistent data that you can kind of rely on if you look historically. So our forecasting algorithm is relatively straightforward. So we take price finders historical data going back 40 years at a suburb and a property level, and we say, all right, how much for example, houses in Penrith grown on an annual basis over the last 40 years? And 40 years, I
Mhm.
mean, it's sort of a robust period as far as there would have been some, booms and busts. There would have been different property sort of cycles over that period. So let's say if it's grown at 5.5%, and I'm just making this up, it's 5.5%, we apply that same forecast for the next 10 years at a property level. So whether it's Penrith, or, if it's Penrith, it could be for houses, but it's all broken down by units, houses, and also a vacancy rate. So it all grows at different rates. So if you forecast your portfolio, so as an example, I've got one investor who's got 34 investment properties, without giving too much away, but yeah, he's got 34 properties and his current equity is about 16 million. So when he forecasts his properties at, going forward 10 years, if it continues to grow at that same rate, then it'll be he'll have $50 million worth of equity. Again, that's based on the assumption it'll continue to grow. Some of those suburbs will grow more, some of them won't grow as much. So in general, I think investors are impressed with the fact that, we're put on the table what data we're dealing with, and we don't go to the level of trying to estimate how much the property is worth right now. I think, there's some tools that do it based on square meters and things like that, but it can vary considerably. But what we're doing as well to add to that is we're working on some pretty sophisticated scenario analysis tools at the moment, where we actually allow investors to play out multiple scenarios based on the historical capital growth, interest rate changes, etc. So that's going to be a key focus of the business going forward. And also, we'll be looking to identify as part of future development, like high growth potential suburbs, based on upcoming infrastructure, transport links, good schools, and so on. But we want to make sure that we get our ducks in a row and have a solid algorithm before we go ahead and do it too fast.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. And so last year you were winners of one of the Proptech awards. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did that change anything for you? Has it helped build awareness or
Yeah, definitely. I
some of
think
that?
what it's done is it's extended our reach. It's sort of established us more. Not to say people didn't know about us before, but it's brought us interest from some other businesses, some well-known property companies, venture capitalists, and so on. We still maintain full equity in the business at the moment, but we're definitely open to working with the right sort of partner to build up the business. And it's just increased our media profile, across social, increased the engagement. It's had a good, really positive impact on our subscription numbers, and we're just known sort of Australia-wide. And it's good to have that respect out there, and as far as what we do.
Yeah. And so what are you seeing is the future for property investing?
Yeah, look, I think as far as tech is concerned and the sorts of tools that we build, I think investors are getting a bit more savvy as far as being aware of sort of data and what the key data points, things like, I guess, days on market, event discount rates, and so on. So I think people will pay more attention to data to help sort of guide their decisions in where they want to invest. And I think they'll start taking advantage of tools like Property Direct to help sort of guide their investment decisions. So I think there'll be more literate as far as the data is concerned, and before they go ahead and make a decision, they'll use these kinds of tools. And I think, and in terms of what we want to do at Property Director to help sort of fulfill that need, is we want to try to be like a one-stop place where the investor, once they actually pinpoint and shortlist suburbs, which they currently do with Property Director, take to the next stage to actually integrate listings from places like Domain or Real Estate, so that they can actually say, all right, based on 4 suburbs, I've got this budget and I want to have a look at these listings. So actually move from there to take action. So I think you'll see those kinds of tools. That's something that we're really focusing hard on doing this year, is working on those kind of tools to really cater for the whole cycle. And then once the investor buys the property, they can go back and research and pretty much repeat the cycle.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Richie, let's move to you now. You're from Milk Chocolate and the new Milk Bar, but neither of those names really shout property investing. So tell us about how they came about.
Sure thing. I suppose, Kylie, probably the most common question that we get. So we do things differently at Milk Chocolate. So when we first launched, we knew we wanted to create a service and tech company that was a little more unconventional. So naturally needed a name that reflected our ethos. We viewed a combination of two words as a mix of life's necessities, milk, or in our case, housing, and fun chocolate. So at that time, it allowed us just to differentiate ourselves in a sea of other real estate and construction businesses and turn away, I suppose, from the convention of using founder surnames or a spin on property-centric terminology. Especially when we started the business, we were travelling overseas a lot and marketing ourselves to Australian expats. So we needed something to set us apart. So the name goes a long way in supporting our core philosophy, our branding and our personalities. We are a little bit cheeky. It means people remember us and talk about us. And so even if they're questioning our naming choice, at least it's creating a conversation, which was the intent and purpose behind it. And then drawing upon this, Milk Bar was aptly named after the nostalgic Aussie milk bars. So, the go-to spot for essentials. It encapsulates the essence of convenience and community. It's a place where users can gather all their essential tools and resources under the one roof. So in this instance, such as your property game plan, suburb recommendations, tracking your property transactions and ongoing portfolio management. And the Milk Bar creates an experience that echoes the warmth and familiarity of those beloved Milk Bar corners. So it's about more than just property. It's about building connections and making the journey as enjoyable as the destination.
Okay, but explain to me, what does Milk Chocolate do for property investors, and then what does Milk Bar do, and how are they different?
Yeah, I suppose the elevator pitch is we provide a comprehensive solution for buyers in the Australian property market. So whether they're investors or owner-occupiers, so our bespoke software, in this instance, the Milk Bar, combined with our data-driven insights and expertise from our team, so including economists, valuers, property investment advisors, data scientists, essentially help our users to plan, buy, build and manage properties more effectively. So instead of navigating various services separately, our platform integrates everything into one, simplifying the property experience and empowering users with a cohesive solution. So when we talk about the difference between Milk Chocolate and Milk Bar, so Milk Chocolate is essentially our services business. So that is the one that is specialising in planning, buying, building and managing properties. That provides that complete and unique offering designed to simplify that property journey. And as I touched on, it includes, industry legends across data, real estate and construction with experience and track record of investment advice, facilitating purchases, overseeing construction and management of properties. But in swim lanes, since 2019, we have been building that proprietary software tool that we call the Milk Bar. So that has been crafted using our team's amazing insights over the years to digitise that whole property journey. The Milk Bar is a standalone product built off the superpowers that we call gained through running Milk Chocolate. It's an AI and mobile optimized piece of software that guides users through the entire journey, from game plan, suburb and asset recommendations to the full purchase of that property, including exchange and settlement all the way through to active portfolio and property management. So what we say is that Milk Chocolate will actually leverage the Milk Bar to provide a seamless property journey for consumers, and vice versa, Milk Bar will leverage the insights provided by the Milk Chocolate subject matter experts to help us refine and enhance and validate the technology to ensure it continues to improve and develop into the future. We're not just transforming the way consumers navigate property, we're shaping the future of those experiences, which is really important to us. And I suppose the way that we sell it in is that we say Milk Chocolate, powered by the Milk Bar, is empowering Aussies with that integrated solution for more of a seamless property journey.
Okay, so what I really love about the way that you guys are doing it is that you've sort of got this vision that recognises that every property owner is an investor, right? That even if it's your forever home, that everybody wants to maximise their asset, and you've sort of honed that vision, I guess, through the expat market, because they're often looking for and being prepared to pay for help in the past a bit more. But how do you turn something as complicated as that vision into a Proptech platform? I know you were saying that you've been utilising all of the experience of the different people in your team, but it feels like a very big job.
Yeah, it is a very big job. I'm really only
How long
20
have you
years
been
old.
working on it for?
Yeah, a long time. So I suppose Michael and I, my business partner, we've been buying property for ourselves since 2006 and commercially as a business since 2016. So we've been at it for a long time. But I suppose go back to your question, we essentially do it in a very manual process at the moment. So the benefit of running a services business with a tech team under the one roof allows us and allows our subject matter experts to inform the intricacies and the pain points across that full journey. And so, we've got buyers agents and construction project managers and data scientists all talking together, talking with our UX designers, machine learning engineers and software engineers to help us build the milk bar, because you can't build it without actually understanding the pain point and the problem. And that's been happening since 2019. So we are bringing the milk bar to market this year. We're currently piloting users on the product this year. So that's 5 years that it's taken to get to this particular point in time. And it's, as you touched on, it is a seriously large problem that we're solving, and it's one that's otherwise very difficult to solve without essentially just getting your hands dirty, as Michael and I have for nearly 2 decades as subject matter experts, and really understanding all of those pain points and the intricacies across that whole journey to determine how you actually go off and build a product. So it's certainly not an idea that's born overnight. It's carefully engineered, and we're excited to bring it to the market shortly.
Awesome. And so are you basically doing that, the holy grail of, I guess, the investment fundamentals, and property management as well? Like, is it the full gamut of experience?
Yeah.
Like, unlike sort of AJ's doing just the back end of the portfolio management, but you would still use a property manager. Alex is also sort of providing the data, and then you would always use traditional services. You guys are kind of replacing all of that, or like just an alternative to that?
Yeah, I suppose it's just the way that the business has been built is we offer, those services starting from planning, strategy, all the way through to purchasing, construction and property management. So the idea is that a user can engage with the business and the technology, if you're an investor or a family home buyer, to essentially help you execute across that whole journey. And that's, I suppose, one of the key differences that we're trying to bring to this space. And we encompass researching, planning, buying, building, and management, using our subject matter experts. So we pair the real estate fundamentals with data science to ensure our clients can achieve the strongest possible outcomes, but still with that human touch.
Yeah, okay. And so how different are the fundamentals? Are they different at all between buying a property that's going to be a good investment when you've got your investor hat on, compared to when you've got your forever home hat on?
No, absolutely. For us, it remains exactly the same. So, of course, there's key differences, especially with emotional attachment with a family home buyer versus an investor. And the assets that a family home buyer is looking at is going to be more specific to a location, to their specific needs and drivers. But outside of that, we apply the same real estate fundamentals to either strategy, and the assets we identify always have what we call an occupier appeal. So we look for what we call is a milk chocolate property. So this means that it boasts a few distinct hallmarks that truly make it a property worth purchasing. And so these attributes ideally contribute to the increasing of value, but underpinning the long-term value of that particular property or portfolio over the long term, which is essentially what we set out to do. So property is a long game, so we need to make sure we're ticking those key fundamentals. So as a business, we use 4 pillars, which identify milk chocolate property: location, options, character, and quality are the 4 that we use. And these are across investment properties or family home purchases. And so when we're talking about location, obviously that means region and suburb assessment. So we use licensed data and proprietary scoring tools to assist our investors and pairing them with the right suburb and location based on their strategy requirements, but also with our family home buyers, using those data points and proprietary scoring tools to pair their lifestyle drivers with the specific suburbs that are going to suit those drivers. But then taking that down to looking at it from an asset specific point of view. So you're focusing on orientation of the home, high side of the street. Is it a flat, regular shaped block? What's the zoning? Residential streets, ideally in close proximity to local amenities and transport. They're the same fundamentals across both of those. When you're looking at optionality, we'll still love to purchase properties for our clients as an investment or a family home, and we'd still love to be purchasing those homes that come with those particular options. So irrespective if they're going to take advantage of those options either now or in the future, we still want to make sure that there's options that come with those purchases, because it gives them the ability to execute on that in the future, which is not only going to add value to the home, but also provide them with options if they're looking to sell that home in the future. And the home, if it has more options, it opens up the size of your buying pool if you're looking to sell that home. So if you have a home that has the ability to cosmetically improve, structurally extend, add a granny flat or subdivide, ultimately, if you ever go to sell that asset, you're going to open up that pool of buyers, to a greater audience, which is obviously going to provide a stronger result if you're looking to sell the home. We focus on character. So for instance, if you're buying the inner west of Melbourne, Edwardians, Victorians, Californian bungalows, they're the types of homes that we're going to be focusing on. We most likely would never purchase a low-set brick home in those particular markets because it's not what's generally driving people to those particular homes. And, character provides that emotional attachment to a home. So the more attractive to a family home buyer, they are the ones that are going to buy with their hearts and not their heads. So the investment fundamentals is making sure that you're still purchasing a home that presents with character, because ultimately, if you look to sell that home in the future, you want to attract as many buyers as possible, and ideally emotive buyers as well. And then just finally, quality is the same assessment that we place if it's an investment or a family home, doing building pest inspections, electrical and invasive plumbing inspections. We do that irrespective of the home, and that's their mandatory. Then our teams on the ground who are viewing the homes, we're looking at, cracking the brickwork versus vertical lines. What's the difference? Understanding if it's a home handyman renovation, is it a good quality home handyman renovation? Mm-hmm. Generally not. Stormwater connected, etc. All those sorts of things. So it still remains, the fundamentals still remain the same.
Oh, awesome. And so you guys Milk Chocolate was recently accepted into the Reach Accelerator. Tell us a little bit about that and what that's opened up for you.
Yeah, so we're really excited by this. So applied last year and were accepted earlier, late last year and early this year. So I suppose for those that don't know, Reach Australia and New Zealand is a growth accelerator. So it's created by Second Century Ventures, an early stage technology fund backed by the National Association of Realtors. For us, it provides just a diverse advisory panel that we hadn't experienced before, and just gives us unlimited access to world-class mentors. As an example, we just actually had a video call prior to this, and that was with the Senior Director of Strategic Partnerships for DocuSign as example. So that's the access that we're getting. We did a product demo, got some great insights, going to have further conversations. It helps us make more confident decisions and execute tech adoption really smoothly, and just access to a global network of executives and investors through those partnerships. It just opens up more doors for us in terms of global expansion, and obviously really importantly, investment as well.
So what's the biggest, can the way that Australians invest in property, do you think that will translate into Australian markets? Like, are you a Proptech that has global export potential? I know you've been importing because you've been bringing external overseas investors into Australia, but how does it go the other way?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always something that, when we first set out on this journey, it's always been part of the long-term roadmap. And for us, absolutely, the principles of property investment are transferable across international borders. And while the fundamental process of buying a home really remains consistent, there's obviously the nuances, especially in due diligence, workflow, asset assessment. It can vary based on geographical landscape, but despite those differences, buyer behaviours and requirements remain consistent. So success is still going to be, hinged on aligning investors' goals and needs with suitable properties in suitable locations. So technology and the way that we've built our technology, it's only just going to enhance that process, which is going to just make it more efficient and seamless. But we absolutely believe that it is transferable into overseas markets for sure.
Okay. And so what are some of the biggest lessons that you and Michael have learned since you started Milk Chocolate?
I don't know if we've got enough time
Just give us the top two.
Yeah.
Or the top one or two.
There's been plenty. I suppose where we sort of grown is understanding failure. So we used to sort of, if you got a knockback or if there was a failure in some respect of the business, we really sort of dropped our heads and moped around for days on end. But we now just, it's water off a duck's back, and it's seen as a valuable learning opportunity rather than a setback. So that's one of the key ones for us. And really, for me personally, just establishing of good habits and maintaining discipline and consistent progress and processes. I'm very much quite robotic in that respect, and I do feel that has improved over time. But historically, I used to sort of wane, between those processes and being consistent. And I did see that effect in terms of the workplace as well. So just sort of being really aware that you do need to maintain good habits and discipline and really be consistent.
Yeah. And what is the milk chocolate view of the future of property investing? What do you see happening?
Yeah, I suppose we might be a bit biased here, but we definitely just in the future we see all aspects of the property journey to be consolidated into the one unified process. So a really seamless digitized journey where individuals or institutional investors can either self-serve or engage with a single integrated platform to execute on their strategy and whatever that might be. And that can be for a family home or for an investment strategy, including the ability to create bespoke strategies that suit your specific needs and requirements and goals, receiving location recommendations, facilitating the purchase and ongoing property and portfolio management, where technology really does inform your decisions based on your ever-changing needs. So the way that the world's going, artificial intelligence is generally knowing your next step before you do. And that's what we see as being quite powerful in the future for property investors or home buyers, is understanding, using technology to understand exactly what your next move needs to be based on your lifestyle drivers or how your circumstances have changed to help you sort of orientate to where you want to get to.
Fantastic. So look, thanks so much, Richie. Let's open up some questions to the panel as a whole. There's been a lot of rhetoric in the media about, the greedy landlord narrative and the sort of the theft of, the generational wealth. What's your take on it, and does that narrative impact on Proptech, on the Proptech that you guys are working in?
Who wants
to take it? Ajay, you're working in. Oh, sorry, Alex.
I was just going to say, I don't think we can see that reflected in, for example, our subscription-based or, any sentiment we get from our users, the property investors and, real estate professionals. So we don't see that at all. But I get that there's a bit of that negative sentiment there.
Yeah, property investor bashing. Ajay, what about you? Because you've got a lot of multiple. That's a small proportion of the market, the multi property investor.
No, exactly.
But
so
you guys got a lot of them.
Anyone who's got more than, I think, probably the guys on this panel, given you're familiar with property investing numbers, is I think only less than 1% of whole of Australia. Out of the 2 million or so property investors in Australia have got 6 or more properties. But for us, that's pretty much the market. So. If there's more of those kind of whatever greedy landlords, that's good for us. So I don't really see an impact or anything like that. I guess the people who subscribe, there's also a lot of young, not a lot, but there are. What's really interesting is, so we've got like a section when people register with us, it's optional to put in their age group. So there's people who are like just, early 20s who are getting in and looking at data and things like that. So the new generation, I guess they seem to be pretty data focused. The guys who are registered there, I don't even know if they've got their own investment property yet, but it looks like they're doing a lot of research. And we've got a lot of buyers agents who come on and have a look as well. So I don't really see a major impact there. As far as the business wise.
Okay. And what about the whole self-managed super funds? Are you seeing has that increased sort of the interest in property investing now that it's possible for self-managed super to buy property?
I suppose from our point of view, to date, not significantly, but we are now starting to see more clients come to us with the ability to, hey, I want to buy a home in my personal name, but I've also got a self-managed super fund that I want to purchase a property in. I think definitely further education is required to inform buyers about the intricacies and requirements of buying a property in your self-managed super fund, because it's quite complicated and the lending conditions are very different to if you're purchasing in your personal name. And I just don't think that is evident enough. These particular clients are coming to us generally from financial planners, so it's generally or their accountant who are helping them set up these facilities. So they are coming to us educated, but I definitely it's trickling through, but it's certainly not sort of,
hasn't been
I think,
a tidal wave. No,
absolutely not. No.
I think from our perspective, just on the funding investment property through super. So we've got questions from some of our subscribers saying, do you have tools or the ability to basically see how you could buy an investment property using a super, or basically play out different scenarios using that as an option. But I guess once that becomes a little bit more common, or then we can look at building tools there. But that's the
okay. Well, look, so because I have a question for you all, which is one of the obligations of a self-managed super fund when you're property investing is that you are supposed to have a valuation of the property most years at the end of the financial year. But if you sort of don't get around to doing your tax until September, October, or April, you then have to kind of do like a historical one, which nobody has a tool for. You can't go back in time and say, well, what was the value of this property back in 30th of June last year? Has anyone got a solution for that?
I suppose just thinking off the top of my head, you could probably use the purchase price and then apply the date that you need that assessment created on, and then have a look at obviously the historical growth for that particular suburb over that particular point in time, and apply that as the percentage to the purchase price. It's not property specific, so it's focusing on more of a macro approach to it, but that would be the one.
I just want an AVM button that I can put the date into and say value it as of this date. AJ, can you help me out? Alex?
Oh, go Ajay.
No, I'll just say, maybe give it a go, but I don't know. It'll be pretty basic at the moment. But a bit of thinking could come up with something a bit more deeper than that.
Yeah, it's like running AVM in the past. You're right. Most AVMs are current date, but you like the algorithm, it can run. You can punch in any date that you want, and it will give you the value. So it sounds like it's a pretty easy feature to implement. Just no one thought about it. Except we're talking about it. So
it's just that my accountant is too tight to buy an RFE data subscription and give me one as part of the service he offers me. Anyway, and he and I have had conversations about that for years. Anyway, so look, guys, what's your prop? I want to get two things out of it as we sort of head to wrapping up. But if you could buy an investment property anywhere in Australia at the moment, where would you be buying, and what sort of property would you be buying, and what's the price bracket that you'd be looking to buy in?
Great question. It's very personal too, so it depends on the person.
So I'm asking all three of you based on your personal preferences, and also for all of the watchers at home, sort of asterisks. This is not, this is general. This is general information and should be not regarded as investment advice. So
so let me go first. So for me, I've always liked Queensland. So even my last investment property I bought in Queensland and made good equity over the last few years. So I would say Queensland, and I like Melbourne as well. I've traditionally not even I've never invested in Melbourne, but I think now it's kind of everyone's just going to Perth or Brisbane right now. So I feel like it's kind of if you really pinpoint certain places in Melbourne, with all the, I think going forward it's like going to be probably the most populated Australian city, or there's a lot going for it. So and I think there's more restrictions to landlords that I think was introduced recently, which I think is maybe scaring people away. So I think it could be an opportunity if you look at certain suburbs. I haven't spent very long, but I like Queensland, obviously with the Olympic Games. And I know anecdotally and also with the stats, a lot of people who can't afford houses in Sydney are moving up there to Queensland. And it's nice. It's got sunny weather. And there's obviously the Commonwealth Games and all of that happening. So I think it's just, those are the two that I like. And I'm a bit scared of Perth. I know a lot of high-profile investors who invested there, that they're really skilled, but I'm a little bit more conservative. I just don't really understand the Perth market very well. It's kind of volatile, and So yeah, they're my thoughts. And price bracket wise, probably maybe this is a bit low at the moment, but I'll always like to go between sort of 450 to 600, but that bracket. But I think that may not get you much at the moment. Freestanding houses, preferably 3 bedrooms.
Okay, Alex, what's your preference?
Yeah.
I'd probably agree in some regard with AJ. Yeah, definitely. Melbourne has been popping up on our radar a lot lately. Again, it really comes down what your strategy is, what your budget is, and so on. So if it was me, then yeah, I'd be targeting around 700 mark in a well-established suburb in Greater Melbourne region. It's probably not going to be the inner city. It's going to be the outskirts. That might work well for me. And the reason I'm saying this is because, a lot of time, as you mentioned at the start, Kylie, when you discover a hotspot, it's already too late. Whereas there's signs of the market in Melbourne and Victoria in general that is showing a reversal based on the data we're seeing. Again, this is just general broad market view. When you zoom down to suburb level, every suburb is different within the broader market. So that's why you need to do a bit of extra due diligence and research. And I know I'm talking about Melbourne, but some great suburbs exist essentially in every other state, except for one state. I feel like it is what it's like. If you want to know what that's it, it's sometimes it's like a really good question is to ask where to invest, but an even better question is where not to invest.
Well, yes.
You're talking about Tasmania and Darwin, right? One of those two?
Close, Northern Territory.
Okay, Northern Territory.
And yeah.
Richie?
Richie?
For me, there's probably a couple. So for me, initially, similar to what AJ's speaking about with regards to Brisbane, so Southeast Queensland and Brisbane in particular, the Olympic Games, a lot of the infrastructure, we've been buying there for a period of time, and the economic drivers remain the same. It looks really strong from a data perspective. So focusing on established housing within 10 k's of the Brisbane CBD, zoned with the ability to develop in the future, will be the first option at a higher price point. So that's $1 million plus. There's other markets within a commutable distance to Brisbane via train, less than an hour, where you can be purchasing assets, established houses in established suburbs, with the ability to add value in the future at a lower price point, around between 500 and 600,000. So two sort of markets currently, both within sort of Southeast Queensland and Brisbane area. I agree with Melbourne. I think generally what you see, obviously, there is the macro effect or the macroeconomic data that sort of drives different markets across Australia, but you also see investors moving to markets where they see value, and we've seen that historically, where Hobart had the lowest median house price in Australia, and then that took off. Adelaide had the lowest median price point in Australia, and then that took off. Perth more recently. Melbourne has always been basically number 2 or 3 behind Sydney, and Melbourne is now starting to drop down the pecking order. So I think as investors start to recognise that Melbourne, a global city with strong forecasted population growth, where it's still affordable, I think we're going to see investors start to focus on Melbourne probably in a year, 12 to 18 months' time.
Yeah, cool. Well, look, fellas, we're going to have to wrap up because we're coming up for time, but it has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. My last question was going to be, what's your advice for investors? But I'm going to summarise quickly based on what I've heard, and that is, 1, do your research. Well, 1, have a strategy and do your research, right? They're the top 2 tips, I guess, that you would all 3 recommend.
Yeah.
Don't follow the crowd is another one.
Yeah, and don't follow the crowd, obviously, which is why we're all liking Melbourne to a degree.
Don't get paralysed with analysing it. I think take action as well. That's a key thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and for me, take a borderless approach to investing, because you see a lot of investors who focus on markets that they know or their friends tell them about or where they live. And then also really understand your cash flow thresholds, base your budget and yield requirements on this. So making sure that you understand what you can afford before you start to identify what's the best location to match that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Alex, Richie and AJ. It's been absolutely fantastic to have you on this Proptech panel, and it's been a really fantastic conversation about property investing and the Proptech that's really taking it in all sorts of new directions. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Carl.
No worries. Thank you.
And thanks everybody
guys.
at home for joining us. See ya.